In Washington, they're calling it problematic. For Canada's farmers, it's a lifeline. While America has been focused on its own trade disputes, its closest ally just quietly cut a multi-billion-dollar deal with China. Redrawing the economic map of North America, this isn't just about trade. It's a strategic move toward economic independence that has sent shockwaves through the White House. In January 2026, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney flew to Beijing to secure the landmark agreement. The centerpiece is a monumental deal for one of Canada's biggest industries. Effective March 1, 2026, China has agreed to slash its tariffs on Canadian canola seed from a staggering 84% down to just 15%. For an industry staring at a $4 billion market, this is a game changer. But the deal doesn't stop there. It also carves out new access for Canadian beef and seafood by removing punishing tariffs. It is all part of a larger plan projected to unlock nearly $3 billion in new export orders, with an even bigger goal: to increase all Canadian exports to China by a full 50% by 2030. So, why the big shift? For decades, Canada's economy has lived in the shadow of the United States. As of last year, about 75% of all Canadian exports went to its southern neighbor. That deep integration brought prosperity. But it also created a serious vulnerability after years of unpredictable tariff threats and trade tensions from Washington. Diversifying trade became a matter of national economic security. This was Prime Minister Carney's first official visit to China, representing a major thaw in relations that had cooled significantly. His deal isn't just about selling more products, it is a strategic calculation to forge a new economic path, one that isn't so dependent on the whims of American politics. But this wasn't a one-way street. To get the deal done, Canada had to make a concession. Ottawa agreed to reverse a 100% tariff it had placed on Chinese-made electric vehicles back in 2024. Instead, it will now allow a quota of up to 49,000 Chinese EVs to be imported each year at a much lower tariff rate of 6.1%. At first glance, that sounds like a huge win for China. However, critics have pointed out this is a fairly modest concession. That number of vehicles represents less than 3% of the entire Canadian auto market, making it a calculated, low-risk move. Plus, Canada built in so-called security guardrails, explicitly limiting Chinese investment in sensitive sectors like artificial intelligence and critical minerals. This wasn't about opening the floodgates. It was a surgical agreement that left major Chinese tariffs on products like Canadian pork and canola oil still on the table, and that brings us back to the White House. The U.S. Trade Representative immediately labeled the deal problematic, and it's easy to see why. This move stuns Washington not just because of its scale, but because of its symbolism. It is a clear signal that America's closest ally is actively building economic bridges with its primary global rival. Every container of canola heading to China underscores Canada's push to diversify beyond the U.S. market. The deal directly challenges years of American efforts to create a unified economic front among its allies. It suggests that when faced with a choice between loyalty to an unpredictable partner and billions in national income, a country like Canada will choose its own interests. This is a tectonic shift with massive implications for the future of global trade. Do you think this is a brilliant strategic move by Canada or a risky gamble? Let me know your perspective in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on major geopolitical stories like this one, make sure you subscribe. Prime Minister Carney's deal with China is a masterclass in calculated risk. By trading a limited concession on EVs, Canada has secured game-changing access for its agricultural producers. More importantly, it represents a fundamental shift in Canadian foreign policy, a deliberate step toward a more independent economic future. The White House may have been stunned, but for Ottawa, this looks like just the beginning. The real question is no longer if Canada will seek to diversify away from the U.S., but how that new path will reshape North America.